Hello and welcome to a special edition of Fixed on Racing. I'm your host, Peter Thomas Fornatale, back with you in the Brooklyn Bunker, once again joined by an esteemed panel to talk us through a really important day, in my view, of fixed odds betting out at Far Hills in New Jersey. Amazing day of racing. I've been going for something on the order of 25 years. It's so fantastic and so much better now with fixed odds betting attached. We're going to talk about that evolution. We're going to discuss who's going to win this set of 7 races. We'll start by introducing the panel. We bring to you first a man who's been on every single one of these Fixed on Racing broadcasts. He's got the island vibes on, and that makes sense given that he's coming to us down from Caymanas, from BetMakers. He's Dallas Baker. Dallas, what's up?
Yeah, live on track today, Pete. I thought I'd put the tropical-looking shirt on to try to channel in some good weather in my former hometown of New Jersey, that part of New Jersey. We are due for a bit of luck, but there's no point gilding the lily, as we say. It looks like it's going to be rain, but at least the forecast has got better in the last 24 hours, I suppose.
Might clear out for the racing. I'm hearing it might clear out for the racing. Now, the first time I ever heard of Far Hills, New Jersey, it was due to this man. At the time, he was riding at Far Hills, and he walked away with a Grade 1 victory aboard Rowdy Irishman back in the day. Do you remember that, Sean Clancy?
26 years ago, buddy, 1997. That's when all my worlds collided. My real friends from New York and my riding, racing kind of life. I remember we took the train back from Far Hills, you, Frank, and I, and Was. Remember, he was with us, and you guys like, he won the big race on Rowdy Irishman, and everybody on the train said, yeah, so did I, buddy. So they were great days. That was fun.
Super fun stuff. We also round out our panel with a woman who has a lot of experience looking at jump races from her time at Colonial Downs, and a big fan of the jumping game in general, as well as a regular on our In the Money media shows. She's also the race caller at Parks, gets to call some of these jumpers. Jessica Paquette, welcome to the airwaves.
Nice to be here. It's going to be a great weekend of racing. Hopefully the weather cooperates, but one of my favorite weekends of racing of the year by far.
Dallas, I know you had a general question to get to before we dive into the specifics of the form here. Why don't we start with that?
Yeah, well, Peter, I think, I'm not going to pretend to be a jumps expert, but we've got 2 that are. And I'd just like to pick both of your brains. Like, what are the key elements that you're looking for when you're doing your handicapping to work out the puzzle of jumps racing?
Well, I'll start. The most important thing, and it goes for any type of jump racing, is the courses and the conditions and ground. It's when you get to Far Hills, as we're talking about the weather, it's very different. It tends to be soft ground at this time of year, so you really want to look for horses who have handled soft ground before. Becomes more of a stamina test, less of a speed test. Generally, the American bred horses aren't really at an advantage when it comes to Far Hills, where you'll see a ton of European horses here. They have a slight advantage, or maybe more than slight, depending on how much rain we get tomorrow. But really, it's about courses. When you see horses thriving at the major tracks, flat tracks, firm ground, and horses who excel at more of stamina type courses, and the spring courses and the fall courses, some of them are just real stamina tests, and other ones are real speed tests.
Yes,
that's exactly it.
Yeah,
that's exactly it as far as I'm concerned too. You're looking at the footing and the kind of ground they're going over, and I want to see horses that are coming in with that really solid base of fitness and conditioning. You can get away, I think, on a tighter, harder course if you're maybe not 1,000% fit, but these really do become true tests of stamina.
What about the lack of numbers? I think we have a lot of people, a lot of our typical viewers here who are so used to predicating their bets on, a buyer speed figure or something like that. Jessica, is there anything that can sort of substitute for that? Or how do you go about the lack of having that type of piece of quantitative data?
Well, I know this isn't always the most popular opinion. I'm not really a big numbers person. To me, handicapping a race is a much different kind of puzzle. And horses can't read the form. They don't know numbers, and they can have great numbers and then just be horses. And things go a different way with animals. So for me, I kind of take each horse as an individual on the day, and what you try to figure out the puzzle from there. So the numbers don't the lack of numbers really doesn't bother me, but you do have to get a little bit creative if you're going to try to find a path forward.
Sean, I know you obviously grew up a horseman, and numbers aren't primary in the way that you first learned to handicap and look at races, but over time you've incorporated them to some of the work that you do on the flat, on the bloodstock side, and on the wagering side, where you're also a successful bettor. What do you do on the jump side to try to substitute for that? Relying on other fundamentals, what else do you bring in?
Yeah, I mean, look, I do better when I'm looking at connections, looking at type of horses, looking at pedigrees, looking at form rather than numbers anyway. I mean, even at the flat tracks and the rest of the time when we're handicapping. So in a way, it doesn't bother me at all. Sometimes I get skewed by numbers. So I think in a way, if you don't have those buyer numbers glaring at you and those kind of things, maybe you kind of keep it more of an open mind. But it's handicapping like anything else. You're looking at class, you're looking at connections, you're looking at intentions when you can see a trainer do something that this is obviously the intended target. My knowledge of American steeplechasing, I know the tracks and I know the courses. So I tend to, okay, these are better type races. If you look at Nashville, the Iroquois, and I think it's PW is the Percy Warner's for the abbreviation. That's the best spring meet. So a lot of that form will carry over in Nashville, similar type racing. So you look at those type of courses. I know the ground, so I'm always looking at, what type of ground they were on and how does that correspond? Far Hills is such a one-off because it seems to always end up being soft ground. So Far Hills specifically, very much ground and course experience and ability for sure.
Dallas, my hope is that maybe the bookmakers, usually so reliant on speed numbers, etc., or maybe a little bit of a disadvantage to the likes of Sean and Jessica. And with that in mind, we can give out some nice prices here and horses. We're going to make everybody some money on this on the show. But I did want to ask you specifically from a bookmaking point of view, how you think this changes things. Is that a right idea that maybe the punters can get a little bit of an edge here?
Well, I think the punters hope the bookmakers are wrong all the time because that gives wrong prices and you can get good prices and win on it, Pete. But look, it's the same. I mean, look, one thing's for sure is I won't have any say in the prices this week at Far Hills because I'll plead ignorance there. But it's the same sort of mix that goes into it, the formulas that go into it. Whilst there's no numbers, or limited numbers, there's still a lot of other ways that the algorithms can run, and also too, then it just becomes a little bit more of a polish thing. The algorithms will only ever go so far, and then it really is the layer of polish of it that I think steps you aside from on what you're successful as a bookmaker, which is beating the punters. So that final wave of polish is always probably the most important thing for finiting a book that you're actually focusing on, which we are with Far Hills this weekend. So hopefully the people are doing it get it right, Pete, from our end. But I think everybody else watching it hopes we get it wrong. But as you're saying, yeah, it is. It does have that extra complexity to it, and any complexity makes it more difficult. The more difficult it is, the more likely we're to make mistakes.
MonmouthBets, that's the place you can go to be wagering. Is there now I'm committing a total host fail, asking you a question, Dallas, to which I do not know the answer. Will there be live fixed odds betting at Far Hills, or is this all going to be online?
We also do the tote at Far Hills through our Global Tote as well. A few years ago, they moved away from having tellers there, and it's all phone-based betting at Far Hills. So we'll have a team on the ground of about 12 people wandering around as a promotional street team. Also Big Zach, Billy Pasquale, Daniel Lugo, Brian Rogers, and Johnny Herald will all be there as part of our team as well. So whilst it won't be live on track betting, you'll be able to download the app. And the good news is that we were speaking to a guy from Far Hills. The mobile phone boosting is out of this world. So they've really, it's like 4 or 5 times what it has been. So anybody who has been there before and struggled with mobile phones, in theory, it should be perfect this weekend. So it's definitely been a lot of work done on it. So yeah, not actually tellers, but download the app. And if any problems there, just look for people in the bright pink shirts, which will stand out. we do tend to
Makers
make our
Pink.
presence felt. So you'll be able to see them there. But or if you're not on the track, just download the app or go to MonmouthBets, whatever you prefer.
And the great news is someone like Sean, who's not a New Jersey resident, while he's in New Jersey, still eligible to download the app, to fund an account, and to take advantage of some of the promo offers. Let's hit those real quick, Dallas, if you know any of the promo offers for this weekend.
Yeah.
Into the form.
Same thing as normal, Pete. We'll have a money back for mainly second with the smaller fields in that Far Hills. So it'll be mainly money back for second, as we always say for that. Check the website morning of. Scratchings all of you can have an impact on that. But the standard sign-up bonus of $50 for any new account holder, that's just in free bets. You sign up, you get that. There's no strings attached. It's free bets. It's not money to withdraw. You've got to bet it. And if you're an existing account holder, you put in we deposit match for $50 in, an extra $50 in bonus bets. So and there'll be a deposit code up on the screen. And I made the cardinal sin of not checking what the deposit code is, Pete. So when we do the editing, there's the deposit code.
Pops right up on screen as if on cue. Great stuff. Let's dive into these races, team. MonmouthBets, the place to go to take advantage of all that stuff. Download the app, go to the website, etc. Race number 1 on Saturday, 12:50. We start off going 2 1/8 for the 3-year-olds in the Gladstone. I believe, Sean Clancy, this is a race you have some history with. And you got a bunch of runners today too. So I'm curious to, obviously we'll be, listening to your analysis through that prism as well. But this one, I think it's more of a historical interest from your point of view. Who do you think is going to win?
Well, in the years past, I mean, look, you just would go for Gordon Elliott in this race. I mean, he comes over very much, targets this race. If you look back at the last several runnings, he's had a winner over that 3-year-old. They get started over there earlier than the American horses. I mean, really, there's no place for an American-based 3-year-old to run until Shawan Downs, which if that's just September 30th. So the European horses always have an advantage when it comes to this race. Having said that, I don't think this is his strongest horse. Kyogo from the outside. I mean, he won that race at Perth, was a 3-horse affair. He had the other horse. Visually, the horse wasn't that impressive. It was kind of looking around. He was drifting out, almost ran out to the parking lot. So I'd take that into consideration. From the American side, I thought Lightning Ridge was good at Shawan. I mean, he beat a bunch of these. Anzio was okay. St. John's, I think, is interesting, and I'll be full disclosure, man. I bought St. John's for Jack Fisher and Bruton Street, and I'll tell you, anytime I'm talking about a horse, if I have anything to do with it, so then you realize I'm not as subjective as I probably should be. But his platform is very good if he can handle the ground and jumping. He's a solid horse now. It takes a lot for a first-time starter to go to Far Hills and win, especially against these European type horses who've had a lot of experience over top of them.
If I held your feet to the fire to make a selection, where would you go, Sean?
I would go. I think it's tough. I mean, I would just look for value on the day. I mean, I think I might try to beat Gordon Elliott. I mean, it's 4-1 morning line, which I'd be surprised. Our Boy West is the other European horse. His jumping wasn't very good in his last start. I would be a little concerned about the way he jumped. So I'd just go for price. I'd look for St. John's or even Clifton Down. His flat race was pretty good. One of the keys when you look at these, you see the workouts. That's a training flat race. So you can see Clifton Down had a training flat race at Middleburg last week. He finished second. A horse named Scano runs in the last race. So there's a little, things like that you want to kind of take a look at and pay attention to.
Yeah, you can see that right in your past performances where they're identified. Sometimes they're identified as TR. In this case, you can just kind of tell because it's a 1.25 mile workout. So there's something a little more going on. Jess, let's bring you in for a thought on this one. Any more clarity as far as how we're going to try to get started off with a winner?
Probably not that much more clarity. I'm to the outside. Kyogo deserves some respect, obviously, with those connections in the European form. But I am a little bit also intrigued by St. John's, horse trying in jumps for the first time. Hard spun to me can do no wrong as a sire, both of flat horses, of jump horses, of show horses. I have yet to actually see a hard spun gelding in person that I don't like. And I assume this one would go right along with that. They're built to be athletes, and that translates to any job you're asking them to do.
And probably a little bit of a cue in as physicality based as Sean is on these purchases that he's making, that we're dealing with a pretty good looker there in the form of.
And I think Sean and I have very similar taste. If
Exactly.
we'll get to that later in the card, but I think we have very similar taste.
Let's pivot to our second race on the card. We got the 4-year-olds now, and we're going 2 1/8 miles. We've got a field of 7 going postward. Jess, we're going to keep this with you.
I'm not being particularly clever here. I think the 3 Calico for Gordon Elliott just looks awfully tough, mostly very consistent. I always do wonder how they move forward off of the Lasix kind of when they do come over, especially on a course like this is probably going to be, it is going to be pretty demanding and taking a lot of them. I do wonder if the Lasix gets him a little bit further. I think Calico just looks very tough.
You're represented in here by Rocket One, owned in conjunction with our friends at 10 Strike Racing. We're always yammering on about on the In the Money Media Network. How do you feel like you stack up in here going for the 3-timer, and who do you have to worry about the most?
Yeah, Rocket One's had a good year. I mean, I love the horse. Now, if you look, he's very American. I mean, he's in the mischief out of a Fleet Alex. I don't think he really certainly shouldn't move up on soft ground, although the into mischiefs, I mean, as we've seen on the flat, they're tough and they're rugged, and he's been a lovely horse. I thought out of the 2 races at Shawan Downs, Total Joy's race, if you look, that was a numbers of 2 where Rocket One won a handicap. The numbers of 2 was 10 seconds faster. Total Joy won by 10, is undefeated in 2 starts. I think he's very good. Calico's tough. She's run, this will be her 23rd start over jumps, which is hard to believe for a 3-year-old filly. But she's climbed the ladder. I mean, it took her a while, but her handicap mark's gone up. Obviously, Gordon Elliott's dangerous. The rest of them, Chosen Judge was good first time out. The rest of them probably have a little bit to find, but I'd probably go Total Joy, Calico, Rocket One, I guess, maybe.
All right, I like that. 5, 3, and 1 for you. How different was that course the other day at the track that those common races come out of? Is it similar to the Far Hills experience, or is it a different animal?
Well, the ground was similar. It usually, like last year, it was firm. I mean, very firm. This year it had a pretty good cut in it, so it was pretty tiring ground. So I think horses that did run well at Shawan should at least run. They should correspond to Far Hills. And that course it's a long uphill finish, not as demanding as Far Hills. It's right-handed, but it's a perfectly legitimate course. This year, I'd say slightly more conducive to Far Hills just because of the ground that they ran over a couple of weeks ago.
Race number 3, we've got stakes action in the form of the Foxbrook Hurdle, 100,000 in the pot. We're going 2.5 miles. Sean, who's your idea of the winner?
Look, I mean, I have Awakening here, and I'm not certain I'm going to run them depending on the ground tomorrow.
You can send them right to the farm with me if you want. Just put them on a trailer and send them to New England.
Not yet. I mean, Awaken's lovely, but he's by curling out of Daydreaming. Soft ground's not his thing. You can look at the only poor race he's ever run was on soft ground or yielding ground last year at Far Hills. So if they get a bunch of rain tomorrow, I'm leaning toward maybe not running him. I think the Hero Next Door is very good. I mean, he's his first 2 starts were brilliant. He came back in a training flat race at Foxfield. He stormed home there. Should handle the ground. He beat, Cool Jet, the other horse of mine. Cool Jet beat him at Nashville, but the Hero Next Door had me. I mean, Hero Next Door fell at the last. He had put away Cool Jet. He's going to win. I mean, that's just fact. So Hero Next Door is very good. Lair Imperator is very good as well. I mean, his grade 1 form was good at Belmont. I think just visually, when you look at a horse, the Hero Next Door is tough. Now, this is stretching him out 2.5, a little farther, but he's a real star, that horse.
Sounds like the one to beat. Jessica, how about you in here?
So this was one of those races where I got very suckered in by a horse that I am kind of sentimentally a big fan of. Awakened. I saw him kind of first couple of starts early in his hurdle career at Colonial. And from the moment I saw him, this is a horse that he jumps like a star. He loves the job. He's been a lot of fun to actually watch develop into a really top-class American jump horse. And I bet he'll be a top-class American hunter when he is done doing this. But if I was concerned about the soft ground for him, he is one that does not seem to want to go over that sort of surface. The Hero Next Door seems like a real star on the rise.
Race number 4, we've got 2 1/8 miles in front of us for the P-Pack, 75,000 in the pot. Field of 8 going forward. Some pop culture names. If we had time, I'd make all kinds of gags. But Jess, instead, we're just going to try to get you to tell us who's going to win.
So I'm trying to be a little bit clever here with Can You Do the Twist, the 4 for Arch Kingsley. This is another horse that I've seen at Colonial over the past couple of years who I became quite fond of. She was fun to watch, and I think she's been interesting to watch develop as well. She was almost like a straight out runoff pretty early in her career over fences where she would grab the bit and go, and then she'd get really tired because she just wore herself out way too much, and she's gotten seemingly a little bit more adjustable and a little bit more rideable as she's gotten older. And I think over this sort of demanding ground, you have to be a little bit adjustable.
Sounds like a pretty fair assessment. Sean, how do you see this one?
Look, I wish I could be clever here. I think Say Goodbye's a standout in here. Gordon Elliott brings her over for Rob Core, who we know from their exploits over there. She's done it all over there. Will handle the ground. I think she's an absolute standout. Gold Charm is very good as well. I mean, she's run on firm ground here. She is Irish bred, so you think she might be able to handle the soft ground. But even when she was running before over there, she's sticking to good ground. By Golden Horn, they like good ground. So I don't think she's going to improve on soft ground. I think Say Goodbye. If I was going to single one horse on the day, it'd be Say Goodbye for sure.
Potential best of the day from Sean there. Let's move to race number 5. We've got more River D participation. You truly are all over this card, Sean. That's good to see. Let us know what you think of your contingent, and of course, give us who you think the biggest dangers would be.
Yeah, I mean, Gordon's Jet, he's okay. His spring form was really good. Summer form was poor. I mean, we ran him once at Saratoga to see if he could handle that type of trip. He didn't. I sat close and really had no weapons on a firm, tight course. So I think this is getting back in his wheelhouse. Having said that, he's carrying 158 pounds, top weight in here, gives weight to other horses. Presence of Mind is probably the best horse. I mean, he's 5-2. I'm not really giving you anything that's special, but I thought his comeback race was good. His form before that was good. Beyond those, Wicked West needed that race at Foxfield. I thought his race in Nashville was good. The rest of them are tricky. I mean, I think Gordon's Jet will run fine. I don't like the top weight in the race, but carrying top weight, and he doesn't necessarily improve on soft ground either. If you look at his European form, he was usually running on good ground. But Presence of Mind's probably the horse to beat, although you're not getting much value there.
Jessica, who do you like in this field of 9?
So I like Presence of Mind. I think second start, kind of coming back off of that pretty significant layoff. And it is interesting. You handicap the jump races, and there are things that if I was handicapping and this was a field of flat horses, those kind of layoff lines would be so troubling and an immediate red flag. And at a short price, especially, would be a toss for me. So, Sean, for like people that don't know, what are the horses often doing when we see these big layoff lines for them?
I mean, I hate to say it, but usually over jumps, they probably bowed their tendon, and then they give them a year off, and we bring them back very slowly. They get turned out, live in a field, and kick the heck out of each other and the buddies. And I mean, sadly, in this sport, that's really the biggest issue we have is we get tendons, and usually when you see a year off, it's a tendon, and you can see they come back fine.
And that is with a soft tissue injury, you just need time. It is typically you just need time.
Exactly. Yes, exactly. I mean, we get a lot of tendons, where a flat, you get a lot of chips and knees and ankles. Steeplechasing in this country, certainly we get more tendons and suspensories. So usually if you see a big year off, that's what it is. They come back fine. I mean, we have real sportsman type owners. We get a tendon, we're like, well, you give them a little stall rest, controlled turnout, kick them out for 6 months. They're out in a big field, bring them in when they're ready and try again. And if they don't hold, then they go be fox hunters, or we call Jessica and say, hey, here's your horse.
And that to use the difference, right, Jess, in terms of why the layoff, the culture and the reason for the layoff and the way of dealing with it, not the same negative to you on the jumps. I'm guessing that's where you were going with that.
Not at all. Those are things that I take when I'm handicapping these things as really not that alarming. I understand that there's usually a reason that a horse went to the sidelines for sure, but I also understand that they're not kind of coming right off the bench to a race either, that there's kind of a base level of conditioning and fitness and work on the farm, and whether it's hacking out or kind of building back to that's been done before they get into the starting gate or starting line.
Second off, that's right, the starting line. Yeah. Second off, the layoff with recency from a condition point of view does seem like a horse that should move forward. Dallas Baker, we're going to bring you back in here because we're up to our featured race of the day, race number 6, Grade 1 action in the form of the Grand National. And this is a race for which we have a market that's beginning to take some shape. Can you talk us through what you're seeing?
Absolutely. As we film on Thursday, the only market we have up is the Grand National, Pete. And your favourite is Salvador Ziggy at $2.10, just ahead of Sedan at $2.60. Under double figures is Snap Decision at $6.50, and double figures the rest.
Jessica, what do you think of those prices? Where is your eye drawn when you hear them?
My eye is just always drawn to Snap Decision, and I do think he's up against it. I don't think this is exactly the kind of surface that he really is his best over, but he is just such a wonderful horse to root for, and I think very capable of still having. Yeah, I think he has another really big, monumentous win in him.
The old glory days run you're looking for from Snap Decision.
One for old time's sake.
Sean, how about you? What do you think of this year's Grand National?
Look, your heart goes Snap Decision for sure. I mean, he's just done it over here. He's been this great, great kind of icon in our sport. He's 12 for 21, made 749,000 over hurdles. He's yet to win a championship. He will go down. If he doesn't ever win a championship as far as horse of the year, he will go down the likes of a Leaping Frog, who was the best horse to ever run over jumps and not be champion. So obviously rooting for him, but he's up against it, as Jessica said. 2 5/8 on soft ground. His race at Aqueduct I thought was pretty weak. I was a little disappointed by that. I've never been convinced that he wants to be in front. They've kind of allowed him to be a front runner, and he's kind of sitting duck. Even in Nashville, he's in front a long way, and took a brilliant ride by Paul Townend to beat him on Scaramanga. But I'd like to see him a little off the pace and just try to settle in a little bit, especially going 2 5/8. But if you look at his race so far as last year, that was a weak race. Jack Fisher put him away for the summer. This year, tried to bring him back fresh for Far Hills. The rain tomorrow, if they really get a half inch or 3/4 of an inch of rain, that just swings the pendulum so much to horses like Seddon and Salvador Ziggy, who are, they're solid European horses. If you look at horses that, he's Salvador Ziggy was second in the Kerry National, Seddon's one of the Cheltenham Festival. They're solid. I mean, and this race now going 2 5/8 as the rain has come has just swung more in a European type horse rather than the American type horse. Out of all the others, I'd take Scorpion's Revenge, probably has some value. His race in the Iroquois was very good. He did a lot of running down the backside, more running than Scaramanga did, and ran well. He was meant to run at Aqueduct. It was a paperwork issue, so he didn't run, but he's a nice horse, and Cyril Murphy's horses run fresh, so I'd give him a long look at a price. I think he can handle the ground. He's got some Irish blood, although he's usually run on firm ground, but he handled Nashville. He's handled some other spots like that.
That'll be an interesting one, I think, in terms of price with Scorpion's Revenge. Would that be your top pick, or would it be between the European form of the two?
No, if I was just picking, I think Salvador Ziggy my first choice, Seddon would be my second choice, and then Scorpion's Revenge, Snap Decision probably in their third. If value wise, I'd be looking for Scorpion's Revenge. I think if you can get 10 to 1 on him or something like that, I think that's a good price.
Well, remind me again, Dallas. What price are we looking at for the one?
Yeah, $16 at the moment, ladies and gentlemen. So yeah, a little bit better than $10, Sean. So up you go.
Yeah, give me some of that.
Yeah. Everyone's welcome. The more you put on, the more you get back.
Download that app as soon as you drive across the border, Sean, and we'll fire away there.
Friends in New Jersey.
That's the good thing. For year round,
now I need somebody
right
now.
You're good. So that's the good news. All right, guys, we're almost out of time, but we just have one more race to look at. So I say we go ahead and do it quickly. We go to our nightcap, which is the Forbes Memorial, $100,000 race, 2 miles to close things out for us, and a field of 8. Sean, we'll keep it with you.
I have one in here, King Tsunami, full disclosure, 15 to 1. He's at a big price. Same thing, In the Mischief out of Bernardini Mare doesn't really strike you as soft ground, although his second dam is My Typhoon, so maybe that'll help him get home.
Oh, fun! That's a fun pedigree.
I don't know if she handled soft ground, but she was a real runner, so I'm obviously rooting for him. But this is an interesting race. I mean, I think the outside McLovin obviously has the best flat form. I was thinking he'd be up against it at the hunt meet, and then I looked. He actually run a Kentucky Downs twice, so he's got a little bit of experience going up and down hills, which kind of makes him, I think, a little bit tougher. I'm not sure about soft ground for him, but there's no real standouts on soft ground in here. Most of them are American. Agitator won it last year. His form has dropped off, just dramatically since then. He had a training flat race at Foxfield, which was fair. He was a long way behind the hero next door, but he's he did it last year. He's live. Who's counting? Sean McDermott's done a lovely job with that horse coming off a jump win. Riptide Rock was very impressive at Colonial Downs in a race. That race was restricted for jumpers. When you see that, I mean, he ran there's your number. He ran a 78 bar, but that race was for jumpers, horses who had run over jumps at the meet and hadn't won. So just make sure you notice that was a restricted allowance race that day.
Hey, same question. Feet to the fire. Where are you leaning right now? If I
I'd say I'd go McLovin just on the class. I think he's just got a class edge on everybody else, and he's been around Kentucky Downs twice, so not much price, but little value. I'd probably go Who's Counting for some value, maybe.
All right, a couple of ideas there. What do you think, Jessica?
I'm a little intrigued by the 7 Scano for Liam Bork, who I believe just saddled his first winner as a steeplechase trainer. Sean, if I'm right?
Yeah, that horse was actually, so if you look in that line, he won the training flat race in Middleburg a week ago. He did it well, and did that nicely. But he's coming back in a week. But yeah, it was good that day for sure.
Yeah, it was a really good performance, and kind of a young trainer who I think might be a name in a few years we're talking about a little bit more. So Scano, off of that, I think kind of interesting. You have to think he's fit at least. And I mean, I've been at parks for a while, so I see these quick turnarounds and they don't bother me that much anymore.
Now the turnaround wouldn't bother me. I mean, that's a training flat race, no purse. Use it as a work, a day out, tightens them up. It wasn't a hard race on him. I wouldn't worry about a week turnaround on that. It's those races, when you see that race show up as a training flat race, there's no purse. So it's absolutely designed for a work. I mean, that's the only reason the horse is in it. And most of the guys are designing that work to use it as a work. If they win, they're winning on the bridle. If they're finishing third, they're finishing third on the bridle. So that's how you kind of can use those races. There's no purse. There's no incentive to win. So it's absolutely a training exercise for sure.
In future, we're going to reconvene this panel and go deep into, some of the how-tos of jump racing. I think it's an interesting avenue, underexplored largely in a lot of the horse playing handicapping content that's out there. You learned a lot from both of you guys this show, and really appreciate you coming on here. Dallas, let's bring it home. Let's remind folks one more time about what kind of promos we got going on, and then anything else you want to share with us down there at the Islands.
Well, I think firstly, Delaware Park, Fairmont Park, obviously here at Caymanas Park on Saturday are all available on the MonmouthBets website if you want to bet fixed odds. So it's not just Far Hills, and a couple of tracks from South America also on the roster for the weekend. But of course, Pete, as we said, the sign-up bonus, $50 straight away into your account. Re-account or redepositors get 50 for 50, and money back for mainly second at Far Hills throughout the day. So if you run second up to $50, you'll get your money back. So you can basically bet for free, and if you get beat, run second or whatever it is, you get your money back.
As we always like to say, do not miss this opportunity to be handed free money. For Dallas, for Jessica, for Sean, for our friends at Monmouth Bets and out at Far Hills Racecourse, I'm still thinking about trying to get out there on Saturday. If you see me, say hello. I will definitely have my proper jump racing attire, and we may have proper jump racing weather. I'm Peter Thomas Fornatale for Fixed On Racing. May you win all your photos.